Hey folks, today we're going to answer the question, can you build a complete MeteorJS app that runs without writing a single line of code? Well, we're going to find out today if it can. In last week's hidden episode, I'm calling it that because I have not published that episode yet, we did a test using what I've been calling Copilot tools, coding assistant tools such as Kapa-ai, GitHub Copilot, etc., to write code or rewrite codes on LLM prompting. So we've been down this avenue before, but not in the way of actually building a full application out of it. But regardless of whether or not we succeed today, we'll go over some of the contributing reasons why either we succeeded when we get through this live coding session, or what might have prevented our success. Okay? So let's get to it. My name is Alim Ghaffar. I'm streaming to you live from New York. This is the 79th episode of This Week in MeteorJS, a weekly newscast of the MeteorJS Dispatches podcast. With me today are my colleagues. Let's get us all in a nice, friendly view. Okay, here we go, guys. All right.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jan Dvorak, aka Storyteller CZ, coming to you live from Prague.
And this is Jan Küster, coming to you live from Germany. Hello, hello.
And with that, we're going to get right to the news as always. So, guys, I didn't realize that there wasn't an official community space for Node.js. I always assumed there was one. Honestly, I just wasn't that interested in finding out or joining it. But I was a little surprised to read that, and let's get this on properly over here. Add me back to the stream. There we go. That Node.js officially launched their community space on Discord. And there's an article on the Node.js blog by Claudia Wunder and Carl Vitullo. I'm not quite sure. This was recently, I think last week on March 17th. They published this. And I'm not quite sure if these guys are product managers of this or community managers. I did not look that far in to see what their background is. But, a quote from this is, many Node.js community members already use Discord to discuss Node.js, seek advice, and share their products. By establishing an official Node.js Discord server, we aim to gather these conversations and to provide a safe and well-moderated space for our online community to congregate. This is an organic community operated by volunteers, and they really want to emphasize that it wasn't run by professionals from GitHub. It started out from open discussion on GitHub last year, so I think we've got a slide for that too, right? And move forward.
I think that's the next story. Sorry.
Oh, okay. It's missing the slides. Yes, which was prompted by another analysis of other options and a backstory discussion on GitHub. We have links to that. I'm sorry that we don't have it on the slide here, but we can get that to you if you're interested in looking into, how they came about this, and maybe you might be interested if you have a separate community that you're interested in pushing this through. I was hoping that we'd have these links here so that folks in the Meteor software group could take a look and maybe model their own current Discord server with some of the best practices and ideas that they got from that. So that was that story. And there was something else, by the way. So I don't know. Did you guys see the story that I'm talking about, or did you know about this? Did you ever interact with folks at Node.js in that community? How'd you do it if you did?
So for the Discord, I've only used that as in preparation for this episode, because for me, I have enough of Discord channels that anyone new is really not going to help me in any sort of way.
Sure.
But also kind of the historically how this was, and as is described, I believe in the article and in the discussion there, is they use IRC, which is how kind of a lot of these older projects were communicating back in the days, and some even do to this day. But it is not really accessible to most people these days. That you have to kind of be a bit, hardcore or and punk rock for this. So that's that. Also, given that Node is I would say huge and under the foundation, and you could say corporate project at this point. The idea that it would be like on a Discord is a bit strange to me, but so that's kind of my takes on this.
Yeah, well, I was just kind of curious whether or not, in terms of working on Meteor, you've communicated with the Node.js community and how you did it. Was it just through GitHub issues or not? But I mean, let's move on from there though. So for all the complaints people have about MeteorJS, and the things that go on with it, no one's ever reported a 9.1 security bug that bypasses the middleware in Meteor. But this is something that happened recently with, and let me switch back to our proper view here. Whoops, that is not the proper view. Wow, this is like an experiment. Hang on. There we go. So let's get this slides back up here, right? So there's been I don't want to pound this too much because we did talk about Meteor and get rid of NextJS, but Next seems to have had a little bit of a problem recently. They've got this bug that was found. And it was lampooned on the Fireship code report back on March 24th, that the NextJS was rocked by critical 9.1 level exploit. It was also picked up by tech YouTuber creators Hexdump and Melky. And there's some other things here in Hackers News. For instance, Ravi Lakshmanan, said that, and this is marked by a CVE, right? CVE 2025-29927 impacts only self-hosted versions that use Nextstart with the output standalone. Next.js apps hosted on Vercel and Netlify or deployed to static exports are not affected. That's a direct quote. And I think that should put some, framing around it. So the stuff that's on Next.js, on Vercel's hosted site is fine. But it's only on the self-hosted instances of Next.js that you have to worry about it. And that scoring comes out of what's called a common vulnerability scoring system. And from Bablik's Insight, which is a blog, Courtney Goodman, the product manager, marketer over there, said that they call themselves a leader in cyber risk management with AI native platform for risk and exposure management. And, Courtney, I'm assuming Courtney might be a woman. Maybe that's a wrong assumption to make. Says CVSS, Common Vulnerability Scoring System, provides a score that shows how severe each CVE is. So the score is ranking the level of vulnerability or, vulnerability with the CVE that I mentioned before. So, for example, the Heartbleed vulnerability, if you guys remember that from a couple of years ago, which was pretty bad, was CVE 2014-0160, had a CVSS score of 7.5, indicating high severity. So 7.5, this is 9.1, not so great. There is an article also that I had, which is not listed here, called Understanding the Next.js Middleware Bypass Vulnerability.
There we go.
A deep dive into CVE, CVSS 9.1 by Abdul Karim on dev.to, which explains exactly how to carry out that exploit. So we can make that link also available to you, and you could take a look at it and see for yourself whether or not Next is the next best thing. All right. And with that, guys, what have you heard about this exploit?
Well, except the memes that Vercel has been wipe coding security in NextJS, all that stuff. Not really much, and of course, then the the Twitter spats that came between the different people. And for me, it's just not in my not it doesn't affect me. So, and I have right now so many other things to worry about that I haven't had time even to enjoy the drama.
I mean,
so by the way, we do have the slides, Jan. If you advance, you'll notice that the next two slides do have the information that we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm on those.
Right. So that was the understanding the middleware vulnerability that I talked about. So if you want to take a snapshot of that and get deep into what it's about, what its limitations are, how much it affects it, you can take a look at that. And then I think the one before that was on what the common vulnerability scoring system is. So if you're not familiar with that, if you could go back to the slide before, right? I think it was the slide before, right? Yeah, you can go and you can learn how these scorings work. So that's pretty useful information, and you might want to get a gander at it. And I think we're up to a story that you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, Jan has something else that he wanted to put in here.
Yeah, go ahead, Jan.
I wanted to add that NextJS is also, because it has this high distribution, it's widely distributed, and it's way more complex than, say, Express, which is also widely distributed, but it's has a much smaller code base. It's a lucrative target, right? Because there's a higher chance to get into some systems and grab something away. And I mean, maybe if Meteor would be much more distributed, maybe there would be way more security scannings. And I just say that you can't be sure that everything is free of any bugs. I mean, even if we personally, with high experience and years of coding, we still do introduce any security implications into our code if we don't know every quirk of the language or our system that
Sure.
we happen. This is why I think, just to finish this up, which is why I think that in the future we should, especially in context of this AI stuff, look forward to techniques like fuzzing and AI-based security analysis. I think this is something which I think personally is very promising, and I hope there are some advancements in that direction to make the whole application landscape more secure.
I've seen the term fuzzing. I don't know what it is. So, I mean, maybe another episode we can talk about this a bit and, bring me up to speed on some of this. The one thing I was going to point out, though, is when you read some of these articles, it can give you some ideas, and hopefully it gives the team some ideas about how they might pursue testing MeteorJS itself, the platform, in a way that perhaps they haven't tested or examined it before. And so that was sort of my thought by bringing the story here. So Tanstack, what's that about?
So let's advance. There is this article or post from Kyle Gill, who is a software engineer at Particle. Our places, there's recently been kind of Tanstack has been rising. Tanstack comes, it's as it says, stack built on top of other 10 properties. Let me quickly get the list here. And those are those are Tanstack, router, query, table, form, virtual, and so on, which are in a way quite a big agnostic, and they're also very much lauded for performance and other things. And so that's where the Tanstack kind of brings it together, and it kind of emerged a little bit maybe as a challenge to Next. In the article, Kyle goes more into the issues with what that he has with Next, and I found out was especially a lot of the stuff there, and especially the background that he kind of gives there, and why they initially choose Tanstack was that Vercel was hiring a lot of open source developers, which then meant that also as a result of that, they were compatible, or it was just it just worked with many of the other libraries out there, which of course drove the adoption. And initially it was very simple, straightforward, but eventually as complexity came through, you started having SSR and all the other different rendering system, and the APIs started getting complicated. One of my biggest issue from the beginning was the file-based router, which can cause quite some problems. So things gotten quite problematic or more difficult to understand. And I would say the biggest part, which we've kind of talked about in the past in regards to React, is that single page application have become at best an afterthought, which as a result is reflected in React. And and with the adoption of NextJS, of course, it's kind of gotten more geared towards like massive production deployments, to a point that where he argues this is where Tanstack comes in as the best, because it's simple, elegant, fast. It supports progressive web application, has dedicated dev tools for each part, which makes debugging much easier, which is an issue in general. And mainly it is because for like even mid-sized businesses, you don't really need all the islands and thousands of microservices. You just need a server or with multiple potentially containers running and the client. So that's kind of his take on it.
Right.
And I very much appreciated the background on that.
So in a nutshell, I mean, it was regressing back to simplicity because Next and React created so much complexity that was really unnecessary. That's an interesting take. We see this pattern happening again and again with most development as we build out applications, and then the tooling that we use becomes far more complicated, which slows down development and innovation. And then we go searching for a simpler time, so to speak, right? So, all right, very, very cool, very cool. And I think unless we've got something else here, this is a good story. So I guess if you're experiencing something like this, maybe you want to read this essay. It's written by Kyle Gill, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And Kyle Gill is with a company called Particle, and yeah, go check it out. And that would be see if that resonates with you. Okay, and folks, one of the things we forgot to do here, which we normally do at about this time, and maybe actually this is the right time to do it, is if you hadn't had a chance yet and you like the work that we do and you want us to continue doing this, please go hit the like button. Let us know that you appreciate this, and that also helps us with the YouTube algorithm. And Kuster, the problem that we have with a lot of websites is not everybody can use them. Like, we keep on forgetting, I think, as developers and designers.
I just want to a technical interruption.
Yeah.
I am on the screen.
Oh, hang on. That's right. I apologize. Well, I just want everybody to look at you. So let me grab. Oh, there is a like. There is a like. Yes. I am a terrible producer, guys. I forget that I'm driving sometimes, and don't be in a car with me. So this is the man of the hour right now. So Kuster, I was just chatting with you just a second ago. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're at the border. We're sizing you up.
Yeah,
anyway, bad joke, bad American joke here. So we've been talking about how people use applications. We weren't talking about it here. We were talking about this offline, and we ignore a lot of other folks, don't we? Sometimes. And so, what do we need to think about? What is the story you're bringing here?
So there is, if you may have heard already, the European Accessibility Act compliance that regulates not only products but also web and ICT services need to comply with accessibility guidelines for websites, in particular the WCAG 2.1. And the given article by Dominic Nguyen is mostly on the one hand explaining what this whole thing is about, but also a nice tour for through some tool chains that could help you to get rid of this clutter when testing for accessibility. And the question is now, what means clutter in accessibility? That is, when you test, every one of you now here test your websites for accessibility issues, then you will see like thousands of issues. I promise you, because we usually don't build websites with accessibility as first-class citizen, which this act wants to push us to do so. And if you're doing that, you have thousands of errors. You will get thousands of errors again when you test next time. And this tool chain he proposes, with also some tools they provide, of course, this wants to show you more the regressions, like did you improve, did the errors go away, or did new errors come up, so that you don't have to have all errors all the time. That's a nice thing, especially if you come from an app that does not have accessibility built in. Let me give you 2 cents on that, by the way. I personally currently work with in Vue.js with a fork of, or a Vue port of Redis UI, and I think Jan, you also know from React things like Redis UI, which have at least the area, the screen reader accessibility pattern already built in. But accessibility is much more. I just want to tell you that there are tools already you can use that take the burden of accessibility away from you, at least from a content from a component level, and that's on the front end mostly. There are also more accessibility parts. I don't want to get too deep into that, but I assure you the act is getting in effect in June this year, and everybody, especially in the European Union, is affected by that, because violations could be theoretically result in a fine. And guys, what do you have any questions on that?
Oh yes,
I mean,
I have
Yeah,
to
so-
say to this. Most of this thing is related to screen readers and visually impaired and similar things. One thing that interestingly, I've kind of got reminded to it because it gotten worse recently, is I am actually would be considered a disabled person for these purposes, because I have dyslexia, which recently has gotten, or I've kind of figured it out, kind of maybe became stronger lately, but it's becoming a bit harder for me to really read articles and all that stuff. So that's something that's oftentimes forgotten with these things, and the only thing really to help that is there's just like one dyslexic font and a few other things, but that's for most of the time it.
Is that right? I didn't even know there was such a font. Wow.
There are fonts for many of these use cases, from people with visual impairments. Visual impairments doesn't mean you're blind. There are many types of visual impairments, so there are specific fonts for that. There is also a specific font for people with low literacy, which helps them to distinguish certain letters from each other, because some letters, especially in sans fonts, they look very close, like the small L and the small the big I and the small L. They look nearly the same. And people with literacy issues, or even Jan, I think I would consider dyslexia also being problematic when these types of letters confusion can come in. This gets problematic for certain people. The same goes for contrast. So some people have problems with the contrast of colors. Some people have problems with identifying colors. and the list goes on. And there is also, and this is even not covered by the Act, there are also people who have just problems of understanding the tags. And my biggest critique here is, by the way, there is nothing in the Act about all these legal texts. The problem is everything has to be accessible, but then you have to read like a book long text about that legal stuff that is only legally binding when it's formulated in this highly specific legalese language, and nobody understands a thing. And this is totally contradicting. It's total BS when you tell people like the website and the environment, everything has to be accessible, but the content is not. That's sorry, but that's
to close on that. There are two things I want to say. It reminds me of how the Chinese characters were originally created, and that was to kind of make them, a lot of them made them complicated, so that only the nobility, only the people in power could use them, so that the peasants who don't have time to invest into learning those things could not, get that. So it became, part of maintaining power. And I believe recently I've heard about a study that pretty much showed that is the same thing with when it comes to legal text and laws.
Yeah.
They are done in such a way to inhibit, unless you are one of those anointed, then it will be difficult for you to manage, and that's by intent.
All right, guys. Now that we've fulfilled the social commentary portion of this program.
But now the circle closes when you now realize that many politicians in many countries have a legal background.
They do. They do. All right. So, Jan, let's move on to more neutral things like Meteor News, for instance.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So let's get that on the screen, and I should be pretty fast forward.
Absolutely. Hang on one second here. Let me get over there.
Meteor News is sponsored by Literary Universe, thanks to which we also have this nice presentation, and we'll keep improving that so that we are more mainstreamed and faster with it. And let's get right into it. We'll be talking about a lot of AI, but we also have one end for AI, and that is for the Meteor docs. There used to be Kapa-ai to help you kind of answer your question. It is gone, removed, because it just was not worth the cost. The good news is that we can expect in the near future a blog post or an article on the forums that will detail how to properly, kind of load the Meteor documentation and everything into LLM of your choice, so you can access that very easily in there. Next, we have another Meteor 3 migration story from Harry Adel. He calls it a space exploration mission, where he details how he helped to migrate a 10-year-old application. So that's very OG, and detail how he worked with the packages and everything. And he has a lot of, or not a lot of, but quite a few important tips on how to approach it. And I especially like this because of the graphic that he produced there for us. So I think we can have, I will be using this meme a lot in the future. So that's there, me and Jan Kuster kind of holding up a lot of the Meteor packages, because we kind of maintain them via Meteor committed packages. Of course, it's not just us. We are just probably the most visible as kind of the day-to-day maintainers and publishing the releases, but there's other people who contribute, and with many of those packages, we really rely on contributions of the other people. And Harry also there details his journey on how he actually went and contributed to Simple Schema and Collection 2 and all that stuff. So that's that. So looking forward to what else Harry has in store for us.
Yeah, Harry did a lot recently.
Okay, next we have, going back to AI, we have from Theo, the founder of JustDo, and he has a video and article, or could say post on the forums detailing how they've migrated to Meteor 3 JustDo with AI assisted migration and some wipe coding. So check that out. Also, you can check out JustDo because it's source available, meaning that you can get the code, you can run it locally, and if you have an agreement with JustDo, you can even kind of resell and run your own deployments. But it is not open source. Just got to let you know, guys.
Yeah, so I think we're going to do an episode where we do a deployment with JustDo and check it out. I think if you guys out there have other projects that that are open source or if freely available for download and install that are built with MeteorJS, let us know about it, and we might do a program on it where we try to set it up and use it ourselves, just so that others can see what you've got and what it can do. All right.
Sweet. And then we have a lot of this discussion. Oops, it looks like we have a mistake here, but the first image is irrelevant. But we have from Joe P. He has come with a storm. Probably had a bit of time on his hand, discussing modernizing Meteor. And especially, kind of working around custom elements to bring back the mojo of where you install, Meteor accounts UI, and then you get all the login and log out and all the other things out of the box. He even has an example on one of his sites. So definitely check out his and other discussion. His username is TR, so you can see him around. So definitely one of those, a lot of discussions there going on right now with interesting ideas, and that kind of brings us, I think, kind of going back the full circle where we, as Alim, as you mentioned, going from complexity, will be probably moving back to some sort of simplicity when it comes to the UI. Will help us with again, come back to the rapid prototyping days.
So, I just want to go back to Joe P's user handle. I think it's True Skater is what it's supposed to be.
True Skater,
SK, TR, right? So that's just one vowel and then the rest is all consonants. But yeah. So what do we have next here? There are a couple more things, right?
Oh, yes, just a few. Let me just quickly back here to news. We have a new progressive web apps kit from Jam, like John Murrow, if I remember correctly. And he gives you two options, either one vanilla and the other one using Google Workbox. So that's the PW, yes, John Mauro. And so that's progressive web apps. So that allows you to have better caching and then notification, push notification, and a lot of other things if you kind of build on top of that. But the biggest thing that you get out of the box with it is caching on the client. That you don't need that much resources.
Awesome.
And finally, the last tier, we have a patch release of Oplog version 3.0.1. Fixes one little issue. So if you use Redis Oplog, be sure to get this update. Reminder, Redis Oplog moves, kind of going from Oplog, it moves to Redis. So it should be much more performance for your application because you're using Redis instead of Oplog to kind of see what's changing, what's going on. So it's been one of the top production tools to improve performance on the server. And so version 3 or the series 3 is for Meteor 3, and the previous versions are for previous versions of Meteor. That said, we're also looking for people to help to maintain this because I'm not currently using it myself in production. So we would appreciate if somebody could step up and help here.
Wonderful. So I noticed that we don't have the slide for this next thing, but Kuster, what do people need to do now?
I know for a fact that still nearly the half of our viewers still haven't subscribed yet, and I think it's time to change that, because then we will get rocketed to the moon, and then we can make even more nice and awesome videos, and also have other options that we can enjoy with YouTube. And then maybe one day we can be also these crazy dudes that talk about weird things like vibe coding, but we do our own thing. We will not do vibe coding here, by the way. This is not a vibe coding channel. So get us subscribed, hit the bell, and then you don't miss another video.
All right. And, now that Kuster has told you that we don't do any vibe coding, we're going to do some vibe coding. So
No, we are doing we tell some AI to do software engineering. We are not vibe coding, because I don't feel the vibe yet, guys. I don't feel it. Sorry.
So guys, I want to apologize about the comment that I said that we didn't have that subscribe thing. I didn't realize that we had a fancy subscribe screen with an animation. Normally we just have a screen with just the big bell on it, but thanks to Storyteller, we now have fancier slides, and hopefully you enjoy the work that he's put into it to get us there. All right, and let's get that back up. Where is that presentation?
We are off to the topic.
Okay, so now we are going to be doing some direct coding. So what are we going to do today? All right, so the plan today, hang on a second here. So let me swap around a little bit here. The plan today is to build the leaderboard app. You guys have all seen this. This is the app that first time you run Meteor, if you go back far enough, it was one of the first applications, the first example applications that you might have seen. It's a leaderboard with a bunch of entries, and you can upvote, different things on the leaderboard. So we're going to try to do that just by using prompts, and we're going to see how it goes. We're going to look and see, how it compares to, and we're only going to do this for about 20 minutes, because vibe coding, as you call it, or I'm sorry, assisted, however you want to call it. What did you call it, Kuster?
AI assisted software engineering. Sorry, but that's the technical term here.
AI assisted software engineering. So we're going to do 20 minutes of AI assisted software engineering and see how close we get to finishing this application. And then we're going to compare whatever code it produces to what we have in the repo in the demo app, if we have some time. And one of the things we want to do is we also want to see how difficult it is to modify something that we actually prompt. And does it understand implicitly this notion of versions, right? So there is a whole bunch of old content, old documentation on 2. 3 is newer. That's the recommended path to go on. We're going to check it out. We're going to see what happens. So I think we're going to have Storyteller. He's going to share his screen and drive. And then how do we want to do this? Do we want to just share prompts with him, just kind of like tell you, or do we want to wordsmith out some prompts together? How we want to do this?
Go ahead, yeah.
I think we should together work out some prompts, but I also think if there is a nice idea coming from the audience, we should also incorporate that.
That sounds great. Yeah. So if you're out there in the chat, hang on a second. We've got a bunch of things out here. Let me just see what we've got here. So Kelly had written, I skipped the post completely. Same as I do anything that mentions vibe coding. And then Kuster was typing away. And share your feelings, guys. Tell us how this makes you feel, right? And we've got this conversation going on. It's really interesting to see what's going on over here. And then Kelly puts, vibe coding is what I do when I hit my bong and then write code.
That's Kelly.
Okay.
I
don't think any of us have hit the bong today, but I mean, maybe you guys have, but not here.
You should comment that on all these vibe coding videos. That should be the topmost comment under every of these videos. These folks talking about how they vibe through their code.
All right, so storyteller, why don't you? You're going to drive. I think this is the way we're going to do it. You're going to drive. You're going to suggest a prompt, and if any of us have some refinements that we want to put on it before you type it in, we'll talk about it for a couple of minutes. But let's just try to keep it to about 30 seconds to a minute at the most. Okay, so that way we don't blow it. All right.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we will have to kind of go with the simple thing. So just kind of to set everybody off, what I did Meteor create leaderboard-lm, and then I gave the initial prompt to build up some coding rules.
Yeah.
So that it kind of knows what it's doing.
Can you just make this a little bit bigger, because I think
even bigger.
Was it the default React project, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you guys in the chat see this? Can you guys hang on? Let me just.
Yeah. While we wait for the responses, so it kind of generates like the default thing. I haven't really checked it. I just did a really quick check, added here that it should use subscribe and use find hook and use methods.
Okay, what are these, Jan? Because for example, I didn't do that when I set up my Copilot. So can you just explain me what this is?
So these coding rules are kind of rules that the LM should follow, so that kind of keeps consistent code. But it also here I've specifically said that it should include links to the documentation for the different things. And the other thing I changed here was that it uses the for simple schema, our simple schema, not the simple schema. That's the npm package. And a little bit more because it likes to be chatty. That's one of the annoyances there. But it kind of describes how things should look, what should be, for example, the naming conventions, so that it doesn't name each file differently all the time.
Okay,
so if you don't set
storyteller background. So we're using Windsurf, and what's the model that you're using behind it?
Right now, I have selected Cloud 3.7.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if we want to change that.
No, let's stay with that. We just want to make sure there's questions in the audience. We just want to make sure that they know what we're using.
I have one more question before we start. So if you wouldn't have this coding rules page, it would simply, I don't know, we would come up with the most frequently used things it has been trained with, and then would give you some express routes or what I can imagine,
for example. It would try to kind of guess from the context every time what it's trying to do. So
okay, so you're with these rules, you're creating a context for the model. Okay, great.
Yeah, specifically saying this is React, Meteor 3.2, and all that stuff.
Okay, so this is like our system prompt.
Yep.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, like a system prompt basically tells the big LLMs, like what is the constrained context that we're working in, so that you get, you get things that are more related to the subject that you're inquiring about. All right.
All right. So we have just the basic project, nothing fancy there. Let me also kind of move in here. Here is the command line, kind of have it aside so we have more. Let me see if I can make it bigger.
Yep, thanks.
so that we have that kind of site, so we have more space here.
Okay.
So I'm here now in the write section, so I can start instructing it what to do. There's also legacy, but we'll stick with write. Where do we get started? We still have here the default default stuff. So
Yeah.
Okay, so we did a Meteor Create app, and
Yep.
and so we have the basic skeleton that comes with when you create a first Meteor application, and this is React specific, right? So it's Meteor Create. Okay.
I would start.
Go ahead, Kuster.
I would start with the collection to store the to-dos.
Wait, hang on a second. I think we're getting very low level here, right? Shouldn't we just be able to say, create a leaderboard application for me that, does X, Y, and Z?
Oh, true, because real vibe coding would be too engineering style.
Yeah. No, let's not get
level,
into the specifics yet, right? Let's just kind of like say, all right, well, this is what the application is. This is who it's for, right? Are we going to put permissions on this, or is it going to be a permission space item, or anybody can edit it?
Let's just go with anybody. We can add new features later if we even get that far.
Sure. Okay.
So I'm writing here. Let's create a leaderboard application. It's a one-page application. We want to have an option to add new items to the leaderboard and allow people to vote on them.
Are we when we're talking about the voting, are we allowing upvoting and downvoting, or just upvoting?
Let's see. At one point, I kind of want to make it simple so it doesn't overwhelm it.
Yeah.
But I think I would say, let's see how it interprets.
Okay.
This.
We have a suggestion in the chat, by the way, from Victor.
Okay.
That from what he'd read, it's a good first step to ask for a detailed plan, store it in a file, and then prompt to follow the plan step by step. I have no experience with that.
Yeah, let's do that at the end. We describe it here, then we ask it to write step by step how it's going to proceed, and what we can take it from there.
Yeah, so, Victor, thank you. I think one of the things we're trying to figure out here is, like, if you are coming for the first time and you are not an expert at this, and I'll just share what Victor has said so that it's not just thank you. I mean, this is good information. But I think for the most part, for the people that are coming for the first time, the question is, can they just, without doing any of those things, build a Meteor application? I apologize, guys.
Jan, there's something missing, and that is Meteor specific. We want to have the live updates in the leaderboard, because like the pops up is a very typical Meteor thing. And if someone chooses Meteor, then they usually want to have live updates. So I would suggest to, at least from a high-level perspective, add this. All the data should use Meteor
publication and subscription to be real time. Create step-by-step guide how you will build this. And right now, I have what you said. I moved to chat, so we can just quickly chat with it. So start by creating a step-by-step overview on how you will build this.
Do we have to specify anything about the UI? You've already hit return.
I think I've already specified it should be like one-page application. I've said
Sure.
it has to have the input, has to have the vote. So projects like create new Meteor project, set up the base if we have that, configure necessary packages. Let's see this UI implementation. So main layout. Sorry, the model create MongoDB collection for leaderboard items, define schema for items, name, score, etc. Set up publication subscription for real-time data.
Sounds
Create a
good so
main
far.
layout, implement leaderboard display component, add form for creating new items, add voting functionality. Configure Meteor methods for data manipulation, ensure real-time updates using Meteor's reactivity, implement optimistic UI updates, and then styling and polishing, add is a styling, implement responsive design, add animation for voting changes,
Nice.
testing and deployment. So it has like the steps pretty well done. It has here some, see, there's already Meteor project structured up. Let me examine the existing files to understand what's the working plan. So it kind of does the checking.
Wow.
And then it actually has here the data model set up. There's some errors because we are not in the right section. So I'm going to do here is put the final version of the plan into a instructions file. Let's do that if we can figure that one out, so that we follow the instruction from the audience. Instructions.md will be generated.
And is this the suggestion that Victor had about like what we should? Okay.
So the goal from what I've read and kind of studied is that create the steps that it should follow, and then implement step by step, so that we can always potentially go back. If this was something more serious, I would have already set up a Git and kind of went step by step there. So
all right,
generating. And let's.
Oh, there's a coding rules also that are created. Oh, those were your rules, right?
Yeah, no, well, it was created by, and I did some. So we have the project overview. Building one application allows you to view a list of items scored, sorted by score, add new item to leaderboard, where items upvote, downvote. So that's
nice.
it. See all changes in real time across all connected clients. And it has here already implementation steps on these. So let's keep changes. So it has already programmed it. So that's interesting.
Let's throw it all in and start.
Yeah, tell it to
okay.
Follow
implement first step.
That would be the typical approach now, at least what is promoted. I've seen on the weekend. It's like, just write your stuff, throw it in. It's all working out. It's so awesome. Let's see how good it works.
How many steps are there? Do you know? I mean, you said implement the first step.
Yeah. So the number of steps is, this one is needlessly specific, 6. So right now it's starting with the data model setup. And I think it might have been gotten a little bit ahead of itself, but we shall see. So here we have, I'll just keep the changes for now. The API, so we have
using
publish.
Oh, you see that? Line 21.
Return leaderboard. Yeah, that's a very common thing. Even though I said it should be 3.2, it's still using the synchronous. So it does here this thing. It sometimes goes like a back to fix things. So one that I'll probably do here is force it to kind of put it into memory, that on the server, it should use the async methods.
Okay.
And here we have, it wants to run things, but I don't want to go here. So I'm going to do here, we are using Meteor 3.2. That means on
No fibers.
server.
Yeah.
That means there are no fibers. And on server, we need to use async methods.
MongoDB methods, I would say.
Use async MongoDB methods. Okay. Remember this. This is my attempt to see if it actually does, if it saves this into the memory.
You're absolutely right. Natürlich.
Well, this is specific with Cascade, that it has the kind of memory. So I have not yet really tested, like if I specifically say that it should remember, it actually adds it into the memory. So you can see it started adding here. We have the method is async, and it's
Victor, yes,
changed
it
that
did. Sorry,
Yes,
I was just responding to Victor. Go on.
Yeah, so it now is updating all of that into async here. And we don't want to run it yet. Let's see, because we also created this leaderboard, which I want to check out. So here we have new item names, set item name, we'll see what's about, and errors. And then we have the use tracker for subscribe. No. It did not follow its instructions. And this is actually good.
Oh yeah, you said you subscribe, right?
Yes. So that's another thing. Sure, maybe if it might not know how to properly follow it. So, but I can do here at leaderboard here in the UI. Please use the proper hooks for subscribe and find. Also,
See, again, I think you're being a little too knowledgeable here, right? This is like where we run it, we see what the errors are, and then it's,
The thing is, for a beginner, the vibe would be gone now, because they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know what the original methods to use are, and that's the whole point of it, right?
Yes.
You still have to know how things work.
Yes.
If you don't know how things work, you can vibe through these things, and then at the end you will get your payback immediately.
But okay, let's just say that we are somewhat familiar with Meteor, and we're going to go with that right now. So this is
I think another part of this is that kind of through the first few, you need to be really strict and kind of, I would say, force it a little bit more to kind of be sure that it really it really is in the context of everything. And so this for example was clear that it was not following the coding rules, even though it built them, it was in the context. So now I think from the vibe check, this looks much better. And why don't we try to run it and see if it actually runs?
Yeah. This has been like 5 minutes of coding, and let's see what happens.
How many minutes did we actually use? Like 10?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't look at when we started.
Let me check on the timeline here. Let me check. So let me check on the. Can I move it back?
We're an hour into the program right now, so.
Look at that.
So at least it loaded the page. Are there any errors on the browser console or something?
No, that one is clear as well.
Well,
let's add some stuff to it.
Let's add a limb as an item. Okay, that works.
Wow, let's vote. Yeah.
We want to upvote a limb. Yes. It looks like it implemented multiple things. Maybe this was too easy for it. So...
No, it's okay. This was the reference, right? So let's see the
Can you
download. Let's see the
download sample
downloading.
item?
Yeah, download a limb. Download a limb.
Why do we want to? That one works.
Oh, and it even does the sort dynamically too.
But and the stuff is really in the database, or is it just on the client side?
Oh,
Now
good question. Good question.
Let's check that out. Let me open up my Compass over here. Let's see. We want the 3001. Let's connect. Here it is. Open Meteor. You have the leaderboards here, and it is here as well.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just continue implementation, and maybe you set the bar too low, because this has been like really one of the first examples. So
let's examine why this might have worked out well. First of all, this reference application that we're talking about, this leaderboard, the code exists in GitHub, right? So it is very possible that, in terms of this LLM being trained, it has that. It's been trained on that code already. So it kind of knows. And this is one of those applications that people have written and rewritten many, many times. So my hope actually was that we should see something like this happen. Like it should be, pretty close to what's already been out there, because we're taking a reference application and we're basically saying build the same thing, right? And so if it has it, then we know that, okay, it slurped that somehow when it was training. So now the thing is, we could try something novel. Do we want to extend the time? Because I think this is interesting so far.
Yeah, I want to kind of let it finish what it's doing right now, the remaining steps. I'm curious if it will be able to add tests and other things, but go ahead, Jan. Yes.
I have something very novel, because that's really hard to implement, and that is prevent duplicate upvotes without authentication. The only way I think you could implement this is either by cookies, by local storage, or session storage.
So let's see. I just had it finished. So let's see what it's.
So we're just going to expand the capabilities of the default app, correct?
Well, first we are going to check what it did here when I told it to finish. So it did here like a leaderboard, and it started to kind of separating things even further. So maybe this is kind of like maybe if you keep it running too much. So let's do clean up the code, please. That it will start, and I've kind of seen this, that it can start get really wordy and doing more stuff than it needs to. So let's see what
does it mean when you tell it to clean up? What does it mean to the code tool?
So in this case, it tells you, I'll clean up the code by removing redundant files and ensuring our structure follows the coding standards. Let's start by removing the old leaderboard files, since we are moved to modular structure.
Wow, so it does refactoring as it goes along.
Yeah. And I also want to see if it can clean up the original demo code that's been there by the collections, so like the initial setup, like the links, all that stuff. So
you see Victor has a query here, right? He's got a request. Maybe ask it to add authentication with email password to see if a more complex use case can be solved quickly.
Yes. So the test there is, will it know that we have the accounts package?
Yes, exactly. Like, what will it do?
Exactly. Let's let it have finished the cleanup here and let it get back to a working order. Worst case, we'll have to revert. And hopefully it will not.
So now it's what it's doing right now, Jan.
So now it was
printing
supposed to clean up things a little bit, and it has not done that properly.
Wait, the publications file. Where is that publications file included?
So
It
it's
looks
in
like
publications,
it's also
API
client.
leaderboards. Let me jump back here. Okay, so
No,
it
it's
does.
not on API. Look, I think
Meteor dot
publications.js. Maybe this
publish.
one is included in the client. Take a look at the client.js file.
So we have the.
Why are we not seeing anything on the
Yeah, exactly. So that's
on
what
the
I
running
want to do here.
application?
Yeah.
Meteor
So
dot publish.
I think it's imported somewhere on the client, and it shouldn't be. The file shouldn't be imported on the client. And the question is, where is it? Maybe it's in the index.js. It's important on the client, or so you have to check on client index.jsx or index.js. Sorry, no, client main.js.
Let's see if it can maybe fix this. This is kind of common that, whenever it moves into this modular, it likes to do the index.js, where it just puts everything, even if it's not needed. Let's see if it can figure it out. Okay, so it knows it should be only available on the server side. And it knows it's doing that on the client side.
Yeah, let's make it more spaghetti here. let's wrap it around some if clauses, and it will run its
Yeah,
own cool.
Exactly as you said. It adds the if meteor server.
Just wrap it, just do some spaghetti stuff. Awesome. I will get the sauce.
Exactly, Victor.
Now I can feel the vibes, Oh, man.
Let's see maybe if it did any... And it did this important...
I think that's what the thumbnail should have been. It's just like we sit down, you have a plate of spaghetti, there's a thing that says code, and then you have a jar of sauce next to it.
Just let us and some robot. Come on, let's do another thumbnail this week. Just us and a robot, and we all have these big spoons and big forks in a huge pot of spaghetti, and all pouring around it.
Okay, but we are back to working, so let's keep that, and let's kind of move on to the next step. In the next...
Wait, so we know it's working? I mean, we just know that it's showing up again. We don't know that it's working.
It's
it's
there.
working. Okay, all right.
And it only fixed the... we can add here Jan K as well, so that's fine.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
The next step, let's implement user accounts.
Do you see the comment from Victor?
See security holes. Yes. That's actually what already has happened, because some of the wipe coders implemented SAS, and of course, people very quickly, did a lot of the exploitation of that, and the business went under. So let's implement account. I'm going to be very specific. Use Meteor accounts packages.
Victor, I think that's the new job title now, right? For the 21st century, is like you don't want to be a software engineer, you want to be a debugger, right? It's like
no, if I have to work or like a debug code done by AI, I will charge double. Because of for what I will have to go through. So I will say, if you don't like it, give it to the AI to debug.
There's that story that's out there that says that somebody posted, I think it was on Hacker News or something, that they were using Claude AI to build something, and then after like 700 lines of code, it was like, I'm sorry, but you've got to like do this for yourself, right? And I was thinking they were using the free version, and I was thinking even AI wants to get paid, You know,
Yeah.
it's like, I'm not giving you any more until you like give me some money. So
I like that Windsurf, the Claude model, is telling you this approach follows Meteor best practices for code organization. That's really nice to wrap everything in an if Meteor is server, and then it's your best practice of code organization. Nice.
Yeah. So I'm writing here, the next step, let's implement user accounts, use Meteor accounts packages. We will stick to username and password authentication.
Oh, don't tell it to use the Meteor accounts package.
Okay.
Let's see if it picks it up on its own.
Oh yeah. Oh, let's see now. And now it comes up with passport npm package or something.
Yeah, or find something from Jam. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not making fun of John. I'm just, it's just John has written so many things recently. It's just like, oh, maybe I should take the latest and greatest thing that seems to work, and let's see what happens.
So add the required packages. We need to add Meteor. It says here, yes, it has the bash thing. So
all right,
Meteor add accounts passwords, accounts base.
Okay.
The base is unnecessary.
Does it have the accounts UI?
Create authentication UI components. We need login, registration, and user profile components. Set up user-rated methods and publications. Update the leaderboard to associate items with users. Okay, that's going a little bit more than I've told it to do. Add authorization units with implement rules to control who can modify leaderboard items.
Nice.
So it went and kind of started predicting the common next steps. This is kind of because it knows where to leave. So let's implement.
So for you guys out there that are coming to Meteor for the first time, have no experience whatsoever, have no JavaScript experience, you could use this as a template to give it a try. But at the end of the day, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're getting. So I don't think that this gets rid of having to have knowledge about the platform that you're using, the tools that you're using. But if you do have that knowledge, it can make developing your applications faster. However, I think Kuster would point out that you want to have like that spaghetti. It's spaghetti, and this
is a small app.
What?
This is still a small app. I mean,
It's
just consider you have an app you're building in that way. You're building an application that is like becoming like, I don't know, 100 templates or 100 pages or whatever you have there. I mean, maybe it will be capable of a proper refactoring, but you need to know when it's time to tell it to refactor, and you will have to guide it. So you will not get around to attain knowledge. You will have to attain knowledge. But here's one thing. While this is printing, I would like to open up some discussion for a future episode. And that is, when I'm seeing this, then there is something missing. And that is, to me personally, and that is, I become an observer or a manager of coding, and I feel that the craft behind things gets lost a little bit. And that it takes a little bit joy away from me. And that's my personal take on it. Yeah,
you're dying inside right now, aren't you? You're dying a little bit inside.
A little bit. So this is why I tell you I can't feel the vibe, because it's like, to me it feels a little bit bad. Not because I'm scared of my future, but I just do this stuff because I enjoy it. This is why I chose this as my profession, because I love to do it. And I have a little different setup. Maybe in a future episode we can take a look at how I'm doing it, because
absolutely.
Let's see about the possible options we have here.
So Victor is asking if we know if we just upload a design picture, ask it to implement it directly, what would happen? I don't know. I don't have an experience with it. We're learning a lot right now as we're going along, Victor, and we're learning together. So that is a good suggestion. I think it's something we should probably try at another time. I don't think this is the right episode to do it in.
I would highly suggest for a future episode to do that.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, just do some screen drawings and then just, pop it in there and ask it to do an implementation. Then what would happen is, like, designers don't need developers, right? It's like UX designers can just, draw out their storyboards and then upload them and see.
It's not visible here anymore, but I actually they have like this MCP that you can now connect to services, and I have connection to Figma. For some reason, it's not really working for me, so I just need to kind of look into that.
Yeah.
But the theory is that should be theoretically possible. Also, Windsurf has like built-in browser, and you can visually do that. So hopefully this can finish soon, so that we can check it out what it has built here, and hopefully it will not bumble the publications again.
Oh.
But I started building the out UI, so see the login form, register form, user menu, and again it does whenever this is like this is a very common thing I've noticed here. Whenever it puts anything into a folder, it adds index and puts all the files into the index there, which that's like what I would call probably like a bad habit. Because like even I have like a project that I have like a project where I like explicitly tell it not to do it, and it still does it. So it's
maybe it does it because you told it to be a single page application, and it thinks like, okay, when it's an SPA, just throw everything in a listed import or listed export or whatever for, I don't know, visibility, or because maybe I've seen some PWA projects that actually do that.
Yeah,
exactly like this. Just
I think that's might be where it's coming from. So here we have the login form.
I've seen an error.
That's still working on it. Just meteor error.reason. Let's see, and we have the out page. Let's see how now it's in the CSS, so maybe it's going to the end. We have the log out. So let's see, maybe it's going to create like a multi-page thing. So let's see.
By the way, I think we exhausted our initial 20 minutes. So I think it's success with like building an app without authentication, but adding the authentication in. We're just seeing how that goes. And so how many tokens is this all using, by the way? Like, how much is this costing us?
Let me check here. This one, I think we might still be under with the premium flow action, which is the more important one. Definitely, I think we should be under 100 for right now. Yeah. So I sadly have not put it down. Not put down how much it was before I started. So we'll have to do that. We have to do that next time. So, okay, it has here. Let's see what it looks like in here. Okay, now it wants us to register.
Okay.
So I'll just do my typical. Register.
Password, type coding.
Here, log out. I can still add an item, and it shows it's from me. Oh, how cute!
Nice, very nice.
And I can only vote once, though.
Yeah.
The same thing for downvote. So it has added a lot
Yeah,
of extra
yeah. One
functionality.
thing, please. Can you please open a new private tab and log in or register with another user and just see or like make these to see if the other user is seeing the actual changes.
Yeah.
You know what I
The
mean?
real-time changes. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move
So you're
this
testing reactive behavior.
as well. Yes, it's there.
Nice. Okay.
Very good. So you can build. I think the outcome of this is, at least with a simple application, you can build it using these coding assistants. And for the people that are building really simple things that have really good knowledge of MeteorJS, I think this can be a great assist in terms of your productivity. Based on what we've seen so far, we've only used Windsurf and Claude in this example. Claude is probably, I think, the leader, right? In terms
From the
of
vibes I have been hearing, that's what it is.
on the vibes, yes. All right. And let's see what we have from the outside here. So Victor says it's quite impressive. So yeah, I think I was quite impressed by it also. I am, surprised. I think this can be a really good, useful help tool. I think we need to think about doing a more complex, original application that probably would not have a direct reference to anything that it might have slurped before, and then see just how well it does with that.
Yep.
And then we can figure out whether or not we should all just head to the beach or we can keep on coding.
Okay, let me just do here. I've asked it to create more of a space theme. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
I think let's just say we no longer need designers.
Oh, that's not what your designer wants to hear, Jan.
No.
I think for the simple stuff, I like my designer a lot. He's amazing. He's playing with all this AI, so I hear usually first from him. But from for these basic things, I think designers are going to do the same thing like developers move to a higher order stuff.
Well, here's the thing. Like, if you remember when fonts first came out, right, and they were available to everybody, all of a sudden everybody was using all sorts of nonsense things. Like they were using every single font. They didn't have a good design sense behind what they were using. And I think this is probably going to be also true with this. I think your point, Kuster, about spaghetti is very much on point. That there's going to be a lot of code, a lot of bad code that's going to be generated because people are not going to know how to properly prompt to get good results.
So let me reveal one secret here, or like it's not a secret, but let me reveal one of my experiences to get around a little bit of that problem. And that is it benefits us as developers and especially in a collaborative setup. I started to so I'm using Copilot, and I started to adding more inline comments about what a specific section of my code does, and also where it's related to. Saying like, okay, it's doing something because, and it's getting this from something because, and so I add some contextual information and some reasoning from my side, because we all know that reasoning and contextual information is not given by default in these models. But if I provide it inside of the code, I felt that, for example, especially when generating tests, it just generated the tests in the first step with just a minor correction, and everything was just working out immediately. Because and I just found out about that just by chance. So I think the mixture of generating things and then of course applying your own enrichment and
Yeah.
your rules for refactoring, your rules for architecture, your rules for reason of why we are doing things, this might become something very powerful in the near future.
I'm kind of curious to see if you take a look, you get a snippet of code, and then you go to the tool and say, listen, I want you to analyze the runtime on this code, and tell me what the runtime complexity is, right, for this bit of code, and then suggest something that would make it would optimize it, right? So like if you have a set of like nested loops, for instance, and you want to use, and maybe it's something that could be refactored into a map instead, something that can be done with like some kind of linear computation rather than something that does these loops and is time order complexity is high, right? I'm kind of curious to see if these things are sophisticated enough to understand that in order to address these kinds of questions that are really, in a sense, architectural, right, in your code, and can be actually of use in doing something like this. Because I think this is true of, there's a lot of inefficient code that's written out there. Sometimes developers are not very sophisticated. And I don't mean that in a like a snooty way, right? It's just that they just don't know what to do, or that this is the cost of executing this bit of code, and this is where you're getting bottlenecks. I think if these tools are very helpful at identifying and then remediating that could be a tremendous benefit to teams.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could, that would be just a suggestion for next week or next week after, that we could come back to Jan's code and just ask it to analyze certain parts of that code, as you said, for these. And also I would like to ask it about what it would suggest to refactor for more maintainability or for more flexibility, and in terms of solid or whatever principles we have, and to let it write some tests.
One of the things we did not do is tell it to commit to source, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't tell it to follow best practices on commits as it was doing the development. So I think that would be very interesting also, because if you're working team environment, right, and you're working on anything that's of any consequence or complexity, you need to make sure that you are logging your changes as you go along. And I'm kind of curious about that at some point. So we have a number of different things we can test out, we could try. I'm very encouraged, by the way, with the findings that you have with regard to test cases, because there's a lot of code out there that are missing unit tests, right? And the opportunity to go back to some of that older code and say, okay, well, here's what we have, and this is what we're trying to do. I need to have unit tests to make sure that I have coverage on things that are critical, I think can be very, very helpful to, remediate some older code bases too. So I let's be honest, like going back and doing code remediation is a cost. It's not a value add typically to any development work that's going on, because if you're getting some benefit out of it, then going back and fixing it later, it has a long-term benefit, but it is a cost. You're using resources to do something on something that already works and not building something new, right? So, from a cost basis, I think having tools that can go and help you take a look at code that was less than well written and then come back with some improvements would be a good use case for this. I don't think you throw out your software engineers. I think you need them more than ever, because they're the ones that are going to be able to tell whether or not something that is being suggested has real long-term value. What do you think?
I think it's time for the weekend.
Yeah, and just guys to this, I will be pushing this. I will be pushing this into a repository on.
Yep.
Hopefully soon. I'm trying to have it done. For me,
Okay.
I just have a bit more security, so it's taking a time.
Yeah. All right. Jan, let's get the slides back up, and let's get to where we need to be at this point, right? So, where are we now? So we're at reminders, I believe. Yes. Okay. Here we go. So reminders. Okay. We only have one main reminder right now, and that is for Meteor Impact. Jan, take us through. People can sign up for this. What can they do?
Yeah, so we have a call for papers. So if you want to give a talk, a workshop, do a panel, we're looking for that. And you can also sign up for a newsletter, which in a sense, right now also acts as a sign up for the conference itself. Still some little things here and there to figure out, but that is what it in essence is. So you can sign up for the newsletter, or aka the conference, and submit to present.
All right, and what's next?
I think that will be it.
Okay, so next week we're going back on Safari. Jan, you remember Kuster? We went on Safari last year, and we found a bunch of Meteor applications out in the wild that you may not know about, and we brought them to you, talked about them a little bit, so that you know that MeteorJS is being used for real world live applications, and we'll do that again. So my task to each of you guys here is try to find 3 that you think nobody knows about or knows very little, and even if you can't find something entirely in the wild, I mean, we have resources like the Flipboard that I maintain, and we have some other ways that we can search for different applications, bring them, and like we could tell a story about those apps, and hopefully inspire you to build your own, and get them out there in the wild. All right, but we'll get our binoculars again. Don't forget them. All right, Kuster, you have your Safari hat.
We'll look what I can find.
All right, and Storyteller, you didn't have one you didn't join us last time on that.
Yeah,
right?
I wasn't here, so we'll see how it works out this time around.
Okay, all right. Well, if you have a hunting rifle, bring that too. Actually, I don't know.
I do have some things around here, so.
I mean, because you identify a wild NextJS application that might
All right, guys. And with that, I think we've had a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us. This ran over. Appreciate you staying with us, and we'll see you next